What do you want to ask me about then?
Don't know, what should we talk about? Brexit?
Fucking hell. Let's just talk about how we're winning.
We are winning a lot, aren't we?
Yes,
we are. So, okay, let's talk about War Plan Purple then.
All right.
How's it going? How's War Plan Purple?
You already recorded?
Yeah, I'm already recording.
Doing it casual?
Yeah.
All right. War
That's why
Plan
we're
Purple.
smoking. Yeah, go on. Tell me about how you feel about it.
Well, we've been asked many times by Ukip members and leaders why we're doing it. And, I mean, for me, it came about on a whim, pretty much, whereby we got the idea, why don't we just take over Ukip in a nice way, in a not underhanded way, but in a gentle, soft coup kind of way. And here we are, meeting, as you've seen on Twitter, with the leader of Ukip and the top people in Ukip, in anticipation of a conference, which is going to be a big deal and is going to get a lot of press attention, shall we say, at the end of September. So a lot of exciting things in the pipeline, and basically Ukip, as I've said, as you've said, is the only political party, major political party in Britain that believes in free speech, that believes in fulfilling the democratic will of the British people, which should not be a great requirement to fulfill, but apparently is these days because we have a Conservative in name only party and government, and so that's why we joined. It's mutually beneficial. They can boost us, they can give us a certain level of credibility, which some of us may need more than others in the political dialogue. And
I'm not even sure if that's a dig at. Is it a dig at me, the
self-deprecating,
the evil tweeter, the InfoWars conspiracy theorist, or the Nazi pug guy?
It's an across the board self-deprecating dig, but obviously in return we can give them vast amounts of traffic, video views and Twitter impressions, and it's worked out great so far. We had the EU directive on the attempt to ban memes. We successfully put that off for the time being, and it's going very well. Thank you. Cheers.
Your Smiths. Sorry, but we don't have that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Nice looking glass.
But yeah, it's going remarkably well, and UKIP have been very eager to have us on board, haven't they?
Yes. And they've crafted a manifesto, which we can't talk about, can't go into details about, but it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very different from any manifesto you've seen, at least for decades, and there's going to be a very interesting party political broadcast coming up, which we're not going to get into.
I'm not saying that I'm writing it, but I might be writing it.
And it's going to be, it's going to be from the perspective of a working class person who's been screwed over by the system, by the government. And it's going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to get a lot of media attention. It's going to piss off all the right people, which is what we want to do.
And honestly, it's what we're best at, let's be honest. Let's be real.
It's the only thing I know how to do at this point.
But yeah, it's going really well, actually. I'm consistently surprised how behind us they are.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be more worried that we were, uncertain properties, and that, because they don't really have any direct control over us or anything like that. In fact, they're quite deferential to the things we suggest, because a lot of them are kind of older boomers and aren't so au fait with new technology. And
we had to make certain promises. You can't call people N-words anymore.
Which is a real shame. It was half of my content, but I mean,
so yeah, and they're nervous.
No one has
about
actually said that.
No, well, it was mentioned to me, but
no one said that to me.
What they've read about us is what they've read in the media and on the internet from certain sources that are completely biased. Like they asked about Milo and his history, and we had to point out that was a complete railroading hit job against him with the whole paedophilia thing. Yeah,
Gerard Batten was actually under the impression that Milo had defended paedophilia instead of being the victim of it and explaining his own life experience. It was completely the wrong way round, and
within 2 minutes, we explained to him the true story behind it, and it was all fine. So it's very exciting, and again, it goes to the fact that we're winning the argument. Obviously, the left is going to come back. They're coming back already with their censorship, with their no platforming. But this is why we're doing this whole project with UKIP. It's giving us a platform, and it's giving them a platform, which the left can't take away.
Yep.
So that's how it benefits us both. And
we're going to get a democratic mandate to shitpost.
Yes. Enshrine it. In fact, a digital online rights act is something that we've talked about briefly and we're going to be working on, because we're already working on that in America with Trump's people, and we've talked about this on air, so it's no secret, but Trump's people have approached us and said, explain to us the shadow banning on Twitter, explain to us the YouTube censorship where they delete our videos for child endangerment. Literally, there was a Forbes article wherein they accused Alex Jones, to explain, there's a viral video of a kid who's constantly punching a man on the street, like an 11-year-old kid. Obviously needs a bit of discipline. It was a viral video, we commented on it, and because we commented on it and put it out on YouTube, they said that was us advocating child endangerment, because in the video the guy shoves the kid down gently, he isn't hurt or anything, the kid starts crying, and that's us endorsing child endangerment. But they went further. They literally said Alex Jones was in the video assaulting a child, and that was published in Forbes, Forbes.com, which again illustrates the level of deception that they engage in on a routine basis. And you know, that all goes back to repeatedly calling us alt-right. Yeah. Now you can dig up old tweets of me, and probably maybe you too a couple of years ago, saying, you know, we are the alt-right, because back then, this was pre-Richard Spencer. I didn't even know who Richard Spencer was. To me, the alt-right meant alternative right. It was the alternative to the GOP establishment. Yeah. That's all it meant to me. As soon as the media got hold of it, with the whole Heilgate and all that, the Atlantic, then obviously it became something else. But I've never been philosophically, ideologically alt-right. I don't support an ethno-state. And in fact now, people like Richard Spencer, leaders of the alt-right, give speeches. I don't know if you saw it with Dinesh D'Souza the other day.
No, I didn't see that.
Where he's literally asking him what is the alt-right, and Spencer is making a collectivist argument. He's previously made the argument that the alt-right would ban free speech for certain people.
Yep.
This is not a classically liberal argument in any sense of the matter. So we are diametrically opposed to that, but every single instance they will label as alt-right because they own the alt-right, they boost the alt-right.
Well, I think the thing with back in 2016, that was around the time that Hillary, with her alt-right speech, wasn't it? So I know like people who are in the alt-right, and one of them was messaging me saying, my God, everyone's freaking out because a load of black people have just declared that they're alt-right.
Yeah.
And obviously the white nationalists and the alt-right can't be having that, but it's because nobody knew what it was, and because when Hillary says it, nobody thinks actual white nationalists. They think people who are just dissenters against the current mainstream orthodoxy.
I remember back then the leader of the alt-right in August 2016 when Hillary gave that speech was Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
You know, a gay guy of Catholic origin, a Jewish guy who's literally married to a black guy now. So it wasn't the Richard Spencer crowd. That was a very different crowd which asserted itself and moved in. And then even now, you look at the alt-right, the only time the alt-right gets media attention and prominence or any kind of circulation or exposure is when they're attacked by the mainstream media. So the mainstream media, the left, deplatforms us and platforms the alt-right because it's their best buddies. They use them at every available opportunity to demonize us, the real classical liberals.
Well, they love the alt-right. I mean,
they love them.
Like, if you honestly thought Richard Spencer was a dangerous man, you wouldn't give him Vice documentaries. You wouldn't interview him for every left-wing mainstream outlet has interviewed Richard Spencer. Why?
Richard Spencer is gung-ho to do every single mainstream interview he can do because he's got no other platform. You look at his YouTube figures, they're pathetic. He's got, what, 70,000 Twitter followers for someone who gets that much attention from the mainstream media. It's pathetic.
And I think they do it. I think, honestly, deep down, they know the public is not going to go for this. And so Richard Spencer is a safe property. They can present, you know, here's an unironic white nationalist. Isn't he a terrible person? Everyone's going to be like, well, of course he is. Here's an unironic classical liberal. Isn't he a terrible person for advocating freedom? And people are going to say, no, I think he's right. And that's why they would never give the same sort of coverage to me or you.
No, precisely. And there's not much you can do about it, but it's like the term racist. The term alt-right has been watered down to such an extent at this point that when they do throw it at us, it means nothing anyway. People have moved beyond that anyway. And that's why we're winning the culture war. And that's why they're so petrified to the point where they have to slap us with this label, and it's just not having any effect whatsoever.
It's not just the label, it's the censorship, it's the deplatforming. I mean, I've been physically accosted by Antifa, you know. Like if it was just the label, I would be okay with that. You know, I'd be like, okay, you commies can call me whatever you want, you know, at the end of the day. But it's the actual actions they take against us I have a real problem with. It's completely unacceptable.
And that's the whole point of no platforming, is so they don't have to engage in the debate. They've not only lost the debate culturally, they cannot even make an argument anymore because that muscle is so flaccid and weak. Because the left hasn't made an argument for at least a decade, I would say, or maybe more, which is why they don't resonate in the polls anymore. Yeah. We have a situation in Europe where there's a populist wave. We have the Sweden Democrats, the #1 party in the polls. Their election's coming up next month. Now today, or yesterday, YouTube took a video that was uploaded by the Sweden Democrats, the probable next government of a fairly major European country, and deleted the video. The video was a criticism of Nazism, and YouTube deleted it. Because they
how dare you criticise the Nazis?
Their opposition has some traits of Nazism in its past and regarding some of their members.
Oh, really?
So they deleted Sweden Democrats' video. This is the probable next government, and YouTube is deleting their content, their message. So that is the level that the censorship has reached at this point. It's absolutely
That's amazing, yeah. They did the same to Poland, didn't they? The Polish government.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they actually limited state one
limited
of the Polish,
state,
Polish government's videos?
Which is, I mean, YouTube is a mess because they had the SPLC, their little foot soldiers, go in and you know, look at all our content. That failed. That blew up in their faces. The limited state thing has become rarer because every time I've had a video put in limited state, which for people don't know, it's put behind like an electronic Berlin Wall. People can't comment on it. People can't share it as easily. But for me, it always boosts the viewership for my video at least 200,000-300,000 views because I whine and bitch about it. In some cases, I go to media outlets and they write stories on it. So it only makes it bigger. So again, every time they try to push us down, we just bob back up twice the speed.
Censorship doesn't work. I don't think it works.
I mean, it gets us on the back foot. I mean, the only thing it does, it gets us on the back foot in terms of, you know, it distracts us from making our arguments. But again, it brings in new people because it gives us an illicit cachet for people to say, oh, well, they must be saying something that's interesting to at least be censored. So it's helped, and it continues to help. I love it when my video gets put in limited state because I just make a big fuss about it and it goes twice as viral. So I'm not complaining. Awesome. Although they could just delete your channel, you could get it one day and it's gone. That's a different story. And they did with your sword video.
My history channel, Ancient Recitations, got mass demonetized. I just got an email the other day where they said, we're demonetizing this channel, end of story. And I was like, I hardly ever upload to it, and it's really not a controversial channel. There's nothing on there that's controversial. I mean, unless it was something from history that I was reading that is controversial. But it's weird that they just out of the blue decided, right, this channel's done, you know? Yeah. So what do you make of the Conservatives at the moment?
An absolute bloody shambles. The point about Theresa May is, from everyone I know that's spoken to her, and I've got friends who've literally been on the top table with Theresa May at the Conservative Party ball a few months back, which I was invited to, by the way. I could have been on the table, I wasn't in the country at the time, but my friend, who shall remain unnamed, but he studied theology at Oxford, he's an expert in Islam, and he had a 30-minute conversation with Theresa May about Islam.
Oh yeah.
And she knew absolutely sweet FA. And her response was, oh, but not all Muslims. This is the woman that's leading the country. And she knows, she's basically blagged her way into that position as a vaunted civil servant or whatever. She's the paucity of her knowledge in basic stuff like Islam and the real threat. The fact that throughout history you look at minorities that have stoked violence and intolerance in different countries in the world. It only needs to be a minority to cause major problems. She doesn't even know that basic fact. So this is a woman that's basically blagged her way into power. She's done all the right things to get there, and it's truly shocking to me. But I mean, you look at the approval ratings today. I think it was the Evening Standard a few days ago. May is down to 30% approval rating.
Jesus.
30%. Meanwhile, Trump, according to Rasmussen, which is the fairest of the polls from what we've seen, 50%. This is with a 90 to 95% negative global media coverage. Trump is at 50% in America. Macron, 36%. Merkel, 29%. Her political legacy is collapsing. Theresa May is sabotaging, betraying democracy. I don't think they realise yet that their time is over. They're done. They're relics. They're already on the ash heap of history. They just don't realise it yet. And that's where we come in with a party like Ukip to put the pressure on as a Brexit pressure party. I mean, you think about, if it was anyone but Corbyn, that just shows how pathetic she is, that she's still, what is it, 1 to 2% below Corbyn in some polls, given who he is and what he represents.
Yes, and given how badly he's taking it from the Jewish lobby in the media at the moment. I mean, there's just a united front to destroy Corbyn at the moment. And honestly, I'm going to have to do a video defending Corbyn, because this is just identitarian politics. He's just getting railed by these identitarians. And it's like, look, I don't think anyone's going to suggest that ever that I am a sympathiser of Jeremy Corbyn's, but Jeremy Corbyn has got worse flaws than the fact that some people in his party are anti-Semitic. You know, way worse flaws than that, you know.
But it all goes back to the underlying reality of what's happening in this country, which is there's an underlying current of total resentment, and people who have never been political in their lives, specifically working class people, who are pissed off and who are getting active and involved, which is where Tommy Robinson comes in. He's a weather vane for all that, and he'll tell you himself. If it wasn't for him, it'd be something else. He's just like the lightning rod that everybody is attracted to at this point in time, and whether you agree with him or not, he's the fulcrum of that dissent which is underlying in this country. I told you the story before of being in pubs in London where the England football team is playing in the World Cup, and completely separate from what's going on in the match. Suddenly, like 20 people burst out in a chant of Tommy Robinson. And it's just complete. These are people who have never been. It's a cultural phenomenon from people who are now so engaged, but who have never been engaged in politics at any level in their lives. And we're talking about people in their late 20s, 30s. Now it's happening. You know, I've been to these rallies and been to the aftermath of these rallies, and there are people who are so resentful that they, to be frank, some of them want to have actual riots, and that's where we come in and say that's not the way to do it. But there's so much resentment with this government, with how much it's betrayed us. Tommy Robinson is the ultimate pariah to them, but he's the weather vane for all this resentment. It's all collected around him, and he's a global success. I mean, who would care about somebody like him in America 5-10 years ago? Nobody would care what he was saying.
Well, that's interesting, because I've been thinking about I guess what we could just broadly call like the international freedom movement. Because there's definitely something forming on the internet across the Anglosphere. You know, every English-speaking country, there's a, like, you know, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America, Britain. There's a kind of solidarity that I'm seeing that's coming together because of the internet. And I get comments from people in America all the time saying, look, we really want you to succeed. We you know, and I get this all the time. What can I do? I'm in America, you know. And the best thing is comment, share, and I mean, donate to people if you can donate to people, but just be active. Make people realize there is a voice on the internet, and it's hundreds of thousands of strong.
It's even if you're just liking a video, I mean, that's key. You go on, you can look at YouTube from one perspective and say, you know, they still have the late night comedians, which is all government propaganda now. It's all anti-Trump hysteria. And yes, they've got a large subscriber base, but apart from that, this is the point about YouTube. To be successful on YouTube, and this is why the mainstream wants to shut it down and regulate it, control it, you have to have personality.
Yes.
And they don't have personality. The left does not. They don't produce people with personality.
Well, they've got Trevor Noah. I don't know what you're talking about.
Trevor Noah, the identitarian ethnic.
Blood and soil, Trevor Noah.
Africa won the World Cup.
Oh my God! Oh my God! And then getting into an argument with the French government because now they're not French, they're African. It's like, Trevor, that's what Richard Spencer's argument is. Like, that's the word for word. That's literally what he's saying. They're not French, they're African, Trevor.
But then after that, the other scandal where a 5-year-old joke about Aborigine women being ugly, basically, and the left ate him for that, which is another phenomenon that we've seen.
But you notice he didn't apologise for it.
No, he didn't.
And that's the key. Never apologise.
Now you have all these left-wing comedians coming out and saying, we have to allow offensive speech, though, otherwise we'd all be out of a job. It's like, you created this frigging environment from the start.
Yeah, and I love this.
No, it's okay when we do it.
Exactly, it's just special pleading. It's like, well, yeah, but it's okay when we do it. It's like, no, it's okay when anyone does it. That's the rule. It's just a joke. Get over it.
And the other thing they've got now is this term. They create these terms like post-truth world. Oh, that's just the post-truth world. This is just fake news talking when it's a genuine, authentic uprising and resentment of working class people.
Well, everyone's a Russian bot at the end of the day. I mean,
all those Russian bots and the Trump speeches.
Yeah.
But the new one is, oh no, that was said in bad faith. This is a bad faith argument for somebody on the right to say this person should be fired for their offensive speech. It's not bad faith. It's applying your rules, which you created, to you.
Look, then that just makes me think that everything they've ever said is bad faith.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is how we're defining bad faith,
everything they do is in bad faith.
You've been doing this for years. You created this cultural scenario, and now you're saying, well, this is in bad faith. Yes, we know. We've been saying that for years. You don't really care. You don't really mean it. You're fucking liars.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of them.
I mean, these people know. Most of them know. When they hold up a sign saying Tommy Robinson's a fascist, a racist, they must. You watch his Periscope videos from 2 years ago when he goes to the pub. He used to live stream himself getting drunk in the pub. All his mates are black.
Yeah.
Not a racist. So the bad faith argument, you've been making that bad faith argument for 10 years plus. Cry me a fucking river now that it's blown back on you. Cry me a fucking river. Obviously, I support all offensive speech across the board. Yeah. But by the same token, it's still fucking hilarious when it blows back on them.
This is what people are saying, like James Gunn, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, James Gunn, I can't believe he's being fired. We should rehire him. Well, sure.
By the way, we should destroy Milo Yiannopoulos for basically the same thing.
Yeah.
He was a victim of paedophilia.
I agree that James Gunn is not a paedophile because he made a joke about paedophilia. And now let's talk about racist jokes. Oh no, and I unironically saw some verified check marks on Twitter going, no, let me explain to you. And then they would just say, racist jokes are racism, pedo jokes are not paedophilia. It's like,
They also tried to use that in their own defense. For example, with Sarah Jong, the New York Times new editorial board hire. Oh, it was just a joke. Well, hang on, she's not a comedian. She's an author and a journalist.
Yeah.
And they weren't even jokes. Like, she's literally making the argument that she openly says, I like to be mean to old white men. That's not a joke. And even with the James Gunn stuff, it wasn't funny. It was like, oh, I like to molest kids.
Look, no, I'm happy to take them as jokes. I'm happy to take them as jokes. Like dark humour, the parody is on the person telling the joke. It's a joke at your own expense. I'm all for that. I'm not for them picking and choosing the dark humour that they can approve of.
Yeah.
It's either dark humour is okay or it's not okay.
Yeah.
And I agree that it's okay. But now that your rules are coming back to bite you in the arse, and you're like, oh no, we're being persecuted for our jokes.
400,000 people signed a petition for James Gunn. Absolutely incredible.
I'm not shedding a tear for any of these people. I'm going to laugh at them until they realise that they've been giant hypocrites and that they've made their own bed.
Yeah. And I'm not going to personally lead a campaign to get anyone fired, but I'm going to highlight their hypocrisy every single chance I get and laugh at them in the process. And they deserve that.
I just want to be clear. I think James Gunn should be rehired. I don't think he should be fired for having saucy jokes or pedo jokes, whatever. But to expect me to have any sympathy for the people involved.
Roseanne, no. Yeah. Like the entire cast of Guardians of the Galaxy rallied around him. The cast of Roseanne went off and tried to make their own spin-off show. Threw her under the bus.
Yeah, but that's because she's a right-winger.
And the joke that she made about Valerie Jarrett, you could take it as racist, but she didn't even know what Valerie Jarrett looked like. I probably believe her when she said she was hopped up on Ambien and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but the point is, across the board, allow it all or ban it all. You can't pick and choose based on your politics because that makes you a hypocrite.
Yep.
And they control all the major cultural institutions anyway.
They do. But I tell you what, have you been paying attention to Comicsgate at all?
Was that the guy who got assaulted?
No, it's a different guy. I think that's Jeremy.
I think I retweeted that. Yeah.
But they're basically in the comics industry. I don't read comics. I don't follow comics. But I've been like informed about this sort of tangentially. Basically, there's a Gamergate event going on in comics because they're sick of SJWs fucking up the comics. And for anyone who doesn't know, Google Mockingbird asked me about my feminist agenda, where the character on the thing had a T-shirt that said on the cover of the magazine, asked me about my feminist agenda. So I mean, it should be pretty clear what's happening there.
Yeah.
But basically, a bunch of comics fans got together and decided to crowdsource this guy's comic. He's opposed to social justice, and it got a ridiculous amount of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And suddenly it's like, chart-topping comic, and they're freaking out. Yeah. As you can imagine, it's like good. Let them fucking realize that we're just going to build another industry around them.
Yeah. And you can look at that from the perspective of the NFL as well. Their ratings collapsed after the whole take a knee thing.
Yeah.
Hollywood has had its worst summer, at least last summer, for 15, 20 years.
Star Wars is dying.
Yeah. People are rejecting it. And the movies that don't imbue themselves with this far left political agenda are doing quite well for themselves. Even the ones who don't push like right wing or whatever perspectives, they're doing good. Like Kingsman, that was Kingsman 2. That was directed, I think, by a Brexiteer. He didn't put any politics in it. He just didn't include the left wing politics, which is what's going on in the art world. If you read a book called The New Philistines by Sohrab Ahmari, he makes the point to get your art in an art gallery, it has to be imbued with a far-left political message.
It's got to be progressive.
Yes. Yep. That is a qualifier, which is when you go to modern art museums, it's full of fucking trash because the quality of the art does not matter. The only thing that matters is that it has a social justice message.
It's exactly the same as communist Russia. I mean, if you look at like communist art, it's incredibly plain and dull, and it reflects like the communist dream of the proletariat and
Soviet realism. That's the point that Sohrab Ahmari makes in his book.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And back then they had to pay their penance to the state through their art, and now they have to pay their penance to the dominant cultural institutions and the SJW narrative, which is controlled by the left.
100 years ago there was talk about social parliaments, as in like literally a parliament that would determine like society's norms and mores and things like that. That's what Twitter has become. Yeah. Like Twitter has actually become. I mean, like I've seen, like I've had hit pieces written about me where they're saying he was banned from Twitter. Oh God, really?
It's a badge of honor at this point.
Oh yeah, it's like
when you've literally got, the leader of Ukip, a major political party, which got 15% a couple of years ago, shadow banned. Sweden Democrats getting videos deleted by YouTube. When it comes to that level, that's when you know they're properly freaking out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is with them not engaging us. Imagine if they actually tried to engage us, like Kathy Newman did with Jordan Peterson, and then it would go even worse for them.
Well, that's why they don't. And like coming back to the Richard Spence thing, that's why they engage him, because he will give them everything they want to hear. We're going to give them something reasonable, and how are they going to spend that? I mean, notice that my interview on the street with Benjamin Zand didn't make it into any of the BBC programs they made, did they?
No.
Not one excerpt from my...
They pick out the toothless crazy guys with weird hats and fancy dress people, and that's what goes in the edit.
Yeah. But when
even when they went to this Trump party at this pub, there were other people who, could lay out cogent arguments for what they believed in. None of them were in it. So, yeah.
Of course. I love the way he was like, the BBC doesn't have a bias. Come on, pull the other one. The BBC, I mean, like every day the BBC puts out a new article about gender expression and about, like far left politics.
They did, I think they did a study of Brexit guests on BBC, and it was literally like 20, 30 to 1 leave versus remain. Given that 52% of the country is leave, not quite balanced there, is it?
Not exactly representative, is it? Yeah.
But you've also got Radio 4. All they talk about is refugees, virtue signalling, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Lost 800,000 viewers.
Really?
People aren't buying this. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Even Sky News and LBC, these kind of more, they're to the right of the BBC. Complete BS. Sky News is the most virtue signalling news organisation imaginable. You go on their app, on their homepage every day. Like sometimes the top 3 stories are complete virtue signalling. They report quotes from Remainers about doomsday Brexit scenarios as a headline, not even making it clear that it's a quote from somebody with a biased agenda.
Brexit, I mean, this, unironically...
Super gonorrhea, whatever.
Unironically,
Sandwiches,
I've got a video
sandwiches.
planned for this next week because it's just the best. Yeah, we're not going to have any sandwiches. We're all going to have gonorrhea.
Like they've already topped out. Cameron said literally there would be World War III if we voted Brexit.
Yeah.
They can't. How much higher can they go?
What worse can happen to us than having a VD?
Incredible.
They're desperate. They're really desperate.
Which is, they're going to lash out more and more. And InfoWars this week, we've been banned on Stitcher, the podcast app. We've had episodes removed from Spotify. And obviously, with YouTube, 3 strikes and you're out.
Alex Jones is being openly persecuted at this point.
Completely.
Yeah.
If you look at everyone post-Trump, post-2016, they face some kind of persecution, whether it's literally attacks on their career that have ended people's careers, people being locked up in prison, lawsuits, which is what we've faced mainly.
Yeah, tell me about the lawsuits.
Well,
because you always, this is something I always hear, InfoWars are being sued by Sandy Hook parents. InfoWars are being sued by this person, this person, this person. What happens with those lawsuits?
Well, there have been about 10 lawsuits over the past 6 to 12 months. One of them was the Pepe the Frog creator, who literally gave an interview in 2015 saying anyone can not only republish my image and adapt it, but they can make money off of it.
Yep.
We sold one poster which had a Pepe the Frog in the background with a bunch of drawings, and he tried to sue us for that. He lost. Every single lawsuit, we call it Lawfare. They think they can take us out of business with lawsuits. The media reports the big lawsuit, Alex Jones being sued again. Oh my God, he's on the brink.
Oh yeah.
It's all over for Alex Jones. In every single instance, bar probably one where there was a minor settlement, but in every other instance, we win the lawsuits. And when we win the lawsuits, the media does not report it. So it disappears. And we actually make money from these lawsuits. They think they're taking us out of business. We're actually making money because we get the settlements and we get the fees paid. So it's the same with the Sandy Hook thing, which creates the precedent whereby you cannot question, even if it's offensive or whatever, you cannot question mainstream media or government narratives about events, which is the very lifeblood of the free press in the first place.
Well, that's the very purpose of them.
Yeah, and they've got
what the fourth estate is meant to do.
And they've got anti-SLAPP, they call it anti-SLAPP laws in Texas, which specifically address that. And it's going to get thrown out. The other day, they put out a story saying that Alex Jones was demanding the Sandy Hook parents pay his legal costs when he up front waived the fee, even though it's normal to not do that. He waived the fee. Complete lies. They played 6 videos in court of Alex Jones specifically saying Sandy Hook happened as they said it did. And by the way, don't go and harass the parents. That's horrible. His lawyers played 6 videos in court. There were 20 journalists in court. How many reported on it in the media? 0 reportage. 0.
And they wonder why when Tommy comes out of prison, he's just like, I've got nothing to say to the press. You're a bunch of liars. You just lie all the time. They do just lie all the time. And we've seen it so many goddamn times. It's crazy. And for example, when we were called free speech extremists, I emailed Mikey Smith of The Mirror, who wrote that, saying, look, Mike, I thank you for giving us that wonderful term that I would never have thought of myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't think this was an extreme position, but I love it. Would you like to come on my podcast and we'll talk about it? And, you can explain to me how you got to free speech extremists. Be polite, obviously. Never heard back from him, obviously. Why would he? What has he got to gain? All he can do is look like a fool.
I mean, like I said earlier, that was the biggest headline own goal in probably a decade.
That's amazing. I was like, thank you.
It was straight on my Instagram. I was loving it. Yeah. But I think it was Barry Goldwater who said, extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. But, that's a bit spicy.
That's good. I like it.
How can you be a free speech extremist? Either you believe in free speech or you don't. There's no grey area there. Or you side with the Charlie Hebdo killers.
I love the implication though. It's like, these people want to say whatever they want. It's like,
how dare they?
Yeah, I think they have the right to do that.
But the other thing is, the argument that comes back at you, which I've seen over and over again, is yes, you have free speech, but there are consequences. Well, yeah, the consequences are somebody else has their free speech.
Yeah.
But to them, no, the consequences to them should be violent attacks against you, which is the whole punch and Nazi thing. That's what they believe in, literally. They're on the same side as the Charlie Hebdo jihadists.
Yeah. And this is what the police are protecting, actively protecting. Like, when at the anti-Trump protests, there was a rally outside of Parliament. I wanted to go down there with my camera and record and just interview them. And the police wouldn't let me through because, like with Law and Southern, they were like, oh, we're worried that it'll cause a disturbance. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to cause a disturbance.
Yeah.
Who's causing the disturbance? Obviously, the radical leftists who are going to attack me.
Yeah.
Instead of addressing that, they were like, well, no, you were just not allowed in there, and if you go in there, we'll arrest you. So I'm being persecuted because they are a bunch of violent thugs.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Totally, yeah. And the reason why they're a bunch of violent thugs is because they're in arrested development.
Yeah.
When I was 14, 15, 16, I was a communist, and then I grew up, I developed a thinking process and got beyond it. They never do. They're upper middle class trust fund babies, a lot of them, very depressed, and that's another phenomenon I've seen on Twitter, with the big blue tick marks who attack me.
Yeah.
Generally, they like to tell everybody and virtue signal about how depressed they are,
Yep.
about how self-loathing they are.
How many mental disorders they have?
Yeah, and they openly brag about it. Oh, but as soon as you show any, I think it was Ann Coulter who did a tweet a couple of months ago about how she had no children. And it was kind of a very personal tweet. It was like, I've sacrificed everything, I don't have children for this battle. And they went straight at her. As soon as you show any emotional vulnerability...
Well, what did they say? What did they say to her?
Well, they said, you're a horrible witch, you don't deserve to have children, you deserve it. We wouldn't want you to inflict children on the world. But this was quite a personal tweet from her, very much a departure from her normal, Twitter spiel. As soon as you say anything personal, they go straight to the heart of it. But no, we need to have this whole conversation about mental health because they're self-loathing. I mean, I'm of the opinion, and I'm going to do a video about this soon.
Yeah.
This is what Theodore Dalrymple writes about, who is a big British author. We live in an age of emotional incontinence where we're encouraged to be mentally weak, to be depressed the whole time. And it's not that we shouldn't be able to talk about mental health and depression. It's the fact that it's being imposed on people that to be depressed and self-loathing is completely natural. And I think it's actually encouraging people to be that way. The whole, classic stiff upper lip thing has been completely jettisoned. We're encouraged to cry at everything.
Well, that's personal responsibility.
Yeah.
That's right wing.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Which is why they have the puppy cuddle rooms in universities and whole snowflakes.
Break out the crayons, yeah.
Yeah. Because they're encouraged to behave that way. They're not encouraged to build character, which is what universities were supposed to be about decades ago, to build character, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, when I left university, almost 20 years, when I left home almost 20 years ago now, the idea, I went to university to become my own man, to be on my own, out in the world, to get on with my life. It wasn't to be continually coddled by the institution.
No, it's supposed to prepare you for the world, not to protect you from dangerous opinions. And in fact, with the trigger warnings, there was a study yesterday which found that trigger warnings actually increase anxiety.
Of course they do.
So if somebody sees a trigger warning, they already have, maybe they're a rape victim or whatever, it actually increases their anxiety. It has the opposite effect of what it's designed to do.
Of course it does, because the only way to overcome an anxiety is to face it, is to confront it. That's why I don't like spiders, and people are like, well, you're going to have to hold a spider in your hand. I'm like, I really don't want to do that. But after you hold a spider on your hand, it's a lot less scary.
Yeah.
The fear of the thing is usually worse than the thing itself.
Yeah.
That's I think it was Alinsky actually. But it's true. The fear of the thing is usually what paralyzes you. When the thing actually happens, it's usually not that bad.
Yeah. But again, obviously the reason they've created the trigger warnings, the whole snowflake culture, is because they're trying to make the argument that words are violence. And if words are violent, then your words, which they disagree with, are literally a physical attack on them, which should be banned because it's violent hate speech. So
and then we need to apply that to Sarah Jeong, don't we?
Yeah.
Because she's got some spicy tweets. I mean, a lot of it is white people are sunburned goblins that should live underground. Imagine if that was any other race.
Yeah.
This is a race of goblins. Just
It was also the fact that the New York Times came out with a statement a few hours after that went viral on Twitter, admitting that they'd gone through her Twitter history
They knew.
before the interview.
Yeah.
They knew she was a racist and hired her anyway, that's the point I made. They're not hiring her despite the tweets, because of the tweets.
Yep. And they didn't even try to play the, she can't be a racist because she's non-white. They didn't even try to play that. No, they were just like, no, we think it's okay.
Well, they claim she was responding to harassment with the same
the harassment. I wonder why she's getting harassment. It's not because she's openly hateful against an entire race of people. It's because everyone's racist against her, or everyone's misogynist, or everyone...
Well, there's a meme which everyone will probably know who's watching your channel, where it's a woman shoveling shit over a wall.
Yeah.
It's like shitty opinions she's shoveling, and it's coming back. Yeah. She's like,
misogyny.
And they did a remake with Sarah Jong, which was hatred of white people, and then it came back, and she's like, racism.
The thing is, she is openly hateful against white people. And she seems to have a real obsession about it as well. She seems to tweet about it quite regularly. How much she just has a problem with white people. So look, even if you don't want to call that racism because you have some sort of social justice mindset, it's still really gauche to be openly hateful towards a race of people. It's just wrong. I mean,
it goes back to what I think about often, which is, we get accused of racism on a minute-by-minute basis. If you're around somebody who's actually racist, within about 10-15 minutes, because they cannot help themselves but drop it into every conversation. And it makes everyone else uncomfortable if they're not racist, so you don't want to be around them. I would not want to be around people like that. But whether in her situation she drops it, I think for the majority it's online. I don't think in her day-to-day life, she's got white friends, she's going to be nice.
Hey, maybe I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Well, I mean, maybe she literally does say, white man.
Yeah.
Boy.
but to deny that there isn't an institutionalized hatred of white people within certain cultural institutions, which by the way are all dominated by the left, you cannot deny that. And then they come back and say, white fragility. No, it's fact. It's a fact.
Well, I mean, I guess, but the next time they complain about racism against black people, black fragility, they wouldn't like it. They wouldn't like it up them, would they?
No.
But anything else you want to talk about before we end?
Well, just to promote the Ukip conference, which is coming up September 21st.
Yes. Yeah. Guess who's speaking at the Ukip conference? Not him, because he's too much of a faggot. But we will have a little side show of meet and greets. We're going to have a booth. We're going to have an actual table. We need a change your mind thing on it. We need the Labour Party should accept Jewish people. Change my mind.
But everyone there agrees with us already, apart from the mainstream media. Now the mainstream media will probably be following or attempt to follow us around, at least initially. And what I think will happen is we'll end up following them around.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it'll go the same way as my Trump protest interview went. Basically, we'll be terrorizing them as we wander around this.
Rhetorically.
Rhetorically terrorizing them with arguments that they don't like and things that are true that they also don't like. Let's talk about the fact that these Muslim grooming gangs were 99% Muslim. Let's talk about that, BBC journos. How do they feel about that?
Yeah. What is it? 89% Bangladeshi and Pakistani. That's what Tommy Robinson was suspended for on Twitter, at least.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring that into the equation and see what makes it into the edit. It'd be very interesting.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the conference. It should be fun. I'm actually speaking on the thing. Dankula will be speaking. You'll be at a booth.
I'll be there.
We'll have like a panel style booth thing. So we'll just hang out with people. Yeah, just free form, answer questions and shit. Should be fun.
It's going to be fun. And we'll promote that in due course, and we'll promote the other thing, which is the party political broadcast, which is going to be big. That's what we talked about today. So that's going to be very exciting.
It's going to be great. See you later.
Take care.